Happy Thursday, everyone. It's Chief Meteorologist Eric Wilhelm with a look at the Youngstown area weather over the next several days. We'll take a look locally and also talk about big national weather stories. First of all, let's start out with the temperature here in Youngstown over the last 24 hours. Here's the temperature column right here. You'll notice things haven't changed much over the last 24 hours. It's been between 31 and 35 the entire time. And what you see is what you get today as well. I don't think temperatures will move a whole lot today, so it's just about as warm this morning with these readings generally within a few degrees of freezing as it will be during the afternoon for today. And here's a look at the nation's temperatures. Generally, it's pretty cold across the Midwest this morning, one of several batches of Arctic air invading the U.S. over the next several days. It's below zero this morning in parts of Minnesota, extreme northern Wisconsin, and the western UP of Michigan. Of course, it's pretty cold in the Rocky Mountains, up in the higher terrain. The only spot where it's quote-unquote warm is down across Florida and southern Georgia. But look at the temperature difference on either side of this cold front down in the southeast. 63 right here, but it's in the 30s across the western tip of the panhandle of Florida. So if you're anybody driving this morning along Interstate 10 down in northern Florida, they're experiencing quite a dramatic change. But in the meantime, snow is the big story in parts of the southeast. This is a bona fide snowstorm for parts of Alabama, Mississippi, northern Georgia, parts of Tennessee around the Smoky Mountains, out into western parts of North Carolina, and the sweet spot will probably be northwestern North Carolina, southwestern Virginia. This will be several inches worth of gloppy snow for them. I think the snow gets up to about the nation's capital today, although in D.C. they're probably not going to see much in the way of accumulation. Most of it will be to the south of the nation's capital. How much snow? Well, here's the progress of snow accumulations today and into tonight in the southeast. Notice, as I mentioned, kind of the sweet spot's going to be down across northwestern North Carolina, southwestern Virginia, but even back into Alabama, especially on non-paved surfaces, in other words, on the grass, they're going to get a couple of slushy inches of snow in places that only get one or two of these kinds of events per year, and they have a hard time cleaning up the snow, of course, there in the deep south. Thankfully, as I mentioned, temperatures are just warm enough that most of the accumulation down there will be on the grass, so they're not going to have to worry about too many road issues down in Dixieland. In the meantime, here's a look at the satellite picture this morning. Much like yesterday, we've got a line that denotes clearing out across northwestern Ohio, southeastern Michigan, and I do think some of this clearing will work ever so slowly into the Mahoning Valley this afternoon, so the day will end on a little bit of a brighter note than it started. That said, there can still be a stray flurry today. Computer models look like this over the next few days. There's our southeastern system moving north and then out to sea. This is a miss for us. In fact, we stay pretty quiet all the way through the first half of the weekend. Here's Saturday's map. Notice, with a westerly component to the wind, we should warm up pretty nicely Saturday. I think temperatures will sneak back into the 40s at the start of the weekend, and that'll be easily the better part of the weekend because the cold air is a-coming on Sunday. Here's Sunday's map. The cold front's moving through Sunday morning. The green showing up, denoting snow showers. There could even be a blinding snow squall or two along the leading edge of this Arctic air Sunday morning, so it's not outside of the realm of possibility that we get a small accumulation of snow and some slipper travel Sunday morning, but then it probably does diminish to just flurries Sunday afternoon. Beyond that, the big story is the cold, and with air this cold blowing over the unfrozen Great Lakes, we expect a lot of lake effect snow in western Michigan, northern Indiana, parts of northern Ohio, and northwestern PA, western New York next week. Now, the traditional snow belts, Lake Geauga, Ashtabula, eastern Cuyahoga counties, could be several inches up there. I don't expect several inches here in Youngstown, but still, there could be some small accumulations of snow on occasion next week with these snow showers around in the brutally cold air. This will be the coldest air we've had generally across the region in almost 2 years. It's been since February of 2011 since we've had a high temperature in the teens in Youngstown, and I do expect that for at least one day next week, perhaps even 2 days. That'll be Tuesday and Wednesday. Here's a look at a map showing the temperature anomalies, and basically what that means is the difference between the actual temperature and what the average temperature is for January. So these purples and greens denote cooler than average temperatures. The browns and oranges denote above average temperatures. Today we've got one batch of really cold air that's pushing through Ontario and into Quebec up in Canada, and the rest of the northeastern U.S. is actually a little bit above average today, just by a little bit. That first batch goes into New England tonight into tomorrow, but then things reload up in Canada. Notice as we head into the weekend, All of these purples showing up across the northern territories up into parts of Alberta. And that's cold air gets the green light to come south and east. Here are the temperature anomalies Saturday afternoon. Notice warm across Ohio and Pennsylvania, so it'll be in the 40s here Saturday, but here comes the charge of cold moving out of the prairies, moving into the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. One thing you'll notice here is the worst of the cold will actually be west of the Great Lakes and also east of the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes have kind of a modifying effect on these Arctic air masses. So sure, it's going to be real cold here, but it'll be much worse up towards Montreal and also over towards Minneapolis, St. Paul, and up towards International Falls, where they don't have the Great Lakes to modify the air. In those places, it could be as much as 30 degrees below average for a couple of days next week. And when you consider the averages here in the dead of winter, or in the teens and lower 20s up here, that means lots and lots of below zero temperatures for the upper Midwest. I don't think we drop below zero here, but we could see some single digits for a couple of mornings early next week, and the cold is going to stick around all the way through Wednesday, and then I do expect a bit of a warming trend for the end of next week. Another look at temperatures. This is a graph showing the expected temperatures going all the way out through the 26th of the month, our cold middle of next week, and then notice the trend here. We don't want to specify, or we don't want to focus, that is, on specifics this far out, because computer models generally are not super accurate once you're out talking about 9 or 10 days from now. But generally, the trend is what you want to look at, and we will break out of the real cold weather, I think, at the end of next week. So that's kind of a look at the short and long range. I hope you'll join me tonight at 6 and 11 on 21 News. I'll have much more on the coming cold here across Northeast Ohio and Western PA.